right. I just returned from a walk and I was thinking of sharing what's going on in my head. I was thinking about the schooling system and the university system and how most, if not all, cultural revolutions have their nexus in these institutions. And I thought to myself, that's actually logical because it is the universitarians that will become the foot soldiers of any government. They will become the administrators. They will become the lawyers. They will become the doctors and etc. They will become the ones who have the working permits that pretty much rules societies, and they are the foot soldiers of any government. Um, Most of them will work for governments as civil servants, and governments are nothing without these people. So they have to make sure that they are, correctly indoctrinated, right? Therefore, if you want to alter, change the direction of the future, you have to brainwash people in universities. Plus, that's when our brain is more impressionable, manual. So, another thing, right? I am of the opinion that we live under a military culture. It's old military culture. It's been around for a while. I don't know exactly how many millennia, at least 3 millennia. And the objective of this military culture was to control the known world. The known world. This empire has been always um, controlling the known world. Older maps show us the known world, you know, and then you can see little by little that the known world starts getting bigger and bigger. And people are saying, oh, they are discovering things. No, they're not discovering things. They are just adding what is politically correct to the curriculum, you know. Because in a military culture, everybody is on a need to know basis. So the maps keep getting bigger and bigger until one day they wrap around the map around the globe. And they say, if you start here, you will end up in the same place exactly. So no need to get your hopes, that you will find more, you know, outside the politically correct map. No, this is it. Anyway, um, so it started thousands of years ago, military culture, and it's been quite successful because it's about discipline, cultural discipline, discipline of the mind, discipline of the body, and the ability to keep on with the schedule. Right? If people are not trained, disciplined to maintain things, it will eventually go off rails and collapse. Eventually, sometimes the empire does collapse, but it's mainly about corruption, right? But it rebuilds quite fast because the formula just keeps repeating over and over again. Same formula, rinse and repeat. And military culture, is dominating the world, I would say, right at the moment. And macrocosmally, right? Microcosmally, you can see there are some areas that the military culture hasn't reached completely yet, and these areas are quite chaotic, right? Either they don't care, right? They either don't care, but they just let them be, and they are quite chaotic in terms of organizing, building infrastructure. It just doesn't exist because they lack the discipline, the control, the keeping things in schedule, to be on a need to know basis, to come up with people who are specialized, in certain areas, and to make their life, support their life, to make their life bearable, give them a salary, give them a lifestyle, That's the only way you're going to maintain things. Otherwise, it's going to derail immediately. So, military culture, it starts very early on to discipline its citizens, quote unquote, right? So almost all institutions are following the same military structure. Everybody follows orders. Everybody, has to be on time, right? Otherwise, you are held accountable. Everybody's a need-to-know basis, following orders, get paid, right, and go home. Uh, and things, work smoothly, quote unquote. Now, a thing that also characterized this military culture was allowing certain certain free thinkers to debate, allow them to critically analyze things, debate, criticize, use satire, comedy, I mean everything, to criticize the system. You have to have an healthy discourse. Like in ancient Greece, there was these symposiums where people just gathered, and in India as well, there was these places, India, Greece, Rome, all over the place, in which people just faced each other, and then the public would perceive who had the most piercing argument, which one was more closest to the truth or not. It is said that Socrates was one of the biggest minds of the ancient world. But then there was the sophists, the ones who practiced sophistry. You will never be able to how should I put have a healthy discussion with a sophist. They will always use logical fallacies and tricks and to avoid things altogether. They are the ones who will start with ad hominem attacks, personal attacks. They will start, saying stupid shit like words hurt and stuff like that, and feelings, and you are hurting my feelings, you are hurting me with your words, and I don't like the way you say it, I don't like the tone you are saying it, that sort of thing. It's just to eliminate, to stop any type of discourse. Those are sophists, they just don't like the truth. They will use any tactic to avoid, to put down, and and that's what's going on at every cultural revolution, in my opinion, is that sophistry replaces facts, logic, and wisdom, and then everything becomes subjective. It is the perfect birthing place of ideologies, because ideologies are not based in facts, logic, and wisdom. It's based on subjective mental masturbation, basically. And this exists, this happens because of the nature of the system itself. Um, you see, the education system is also a military-based system, right? They start early on disciplining the mind of people, right? And a thing that the military culture understood is that if you exercise the part of the mind that is based on calculation, memorization, and regurgitation, you eventually, after some years, create a person that is good at following orders, following the hierarchy, and they completely lose any critical capacity of critical thinking or spontaneous thought generation or whatever. They don't have a plan. They just follow orders. That's why they are good at civil servants, Uh, honestly, filling young people's minds with only mathematics will actually make them dumb. You will only exercise the memorization and regurgitation. They won't have any spontaneity, any creativity, thinking outside the box, quote unquote. They won't be able to. Therefore, they will be prone to following orders, Around the world, The university systems are, it's quite a closed system. They are controlled, very hardly controlled by governments. And if anyone comes up with a breakthrough, you know, it is immediately co-opted by government institutions. So everything is public, so to speak. It is only, in the United States, which is capital, that you are able to get out of the clause of the system. You might go to the United States as a student, engineering, tech, whatever is the nowadays, right? Right? You will go there and you might become a millionaire. That's not going to happen in around the rest of the world. They just don't let you. You know, you are quite put in your place because in this military culture, it is a caste system. Humans normally, even in tribal system, they organize themselves around a caste system. Yeah, and also another thing, we also organize ourselves in groups of the same worldview, okay, the same worldview and or the same culture, yeah. So automatically people will segregate. People who have the same worldview will gravitate towards each other and segregate from the others. It just doesn't make any sense. You try and mix water with olive oil or something like that. It just doesn't mix. So people will auto self segregate, and people will also develop caste system. Yeah. So what leads people to go to the university? Actually, what gives them the nowadays is still a very popular idea. Everybody wants to go to the university because they hope to escape the caste system. They hope to escape it. In the United States, it's possible, but maybe possible. But there's details, small details over there, because the ones who make it in the United States are of the Ivy League schools. They are part of secret societies, and even if you come up with a breakthrough, it's going to be the one who's in control of the university that is going to be the judge and jury of whatever happens in the university. So when you see one of these tech giants recently, they are tech giants and they are the face of the company. It doesn't mean it was them who invented it. It probably was some guy, exchange student, who came up with it. But the university took over and they kind of bought it, or what's the expression, co-opted. And the guy who invented it is probably working at that company, but is not the boss. It depends on who's pulling the strings in the university. So that's a whole different discussion, tangent, you know. But whatever pushes people to become an universitarian is to escape the caste system, yeah. And they are willing to abandon their creativity. They are willing to abandon their spontaneous thought genesis. They are willing to abandon even their spirituality, because eventually, through the schooling system is only based on maths, memorization, and regurgitation. You are only working the muscle of the ego, and you starve the spiritual, you starve the transcendent. So inevitably, not only makes people dumb and quite quite what's the expression? It makes them also nihilist. It makes them peaceful, and they roll over and they go with the flow, whatever who's in charge says so, and they kind of lose the spiritual dimension. They starve the spiritual dimension and become nihilists, materialists, atheists. They just deny everything that has to do with transcendence. It doesn't exist for them. So, so around the world, like I said, everything is immediately co-opted and it becomes institutionalized by the government. It's only in the USA that it's not so. It becomes private. It becomes a private business. And right now, the whole world is actually being dominated by these private businesses. In the past, right now, what's hitting the strongest, the loudest, is the tech giants, right? But in the past, it was the food industry. For instance, the mechanization of industry, the mechanization of the food and all the other industries, the mechanization. This came from the universities. They came up with this in the university systems. Um, they came up not only the pharmaceuticals, but pay attention that in the system of the capitals, they always follow the money. How it's going to make them more money. If they are able to close an eye to ethics, they will close an eye to ethics. So you end up with systems like we have nowadays of the food industry, the agriculture industry. It's all based on chemicals, glyphosates, pesticides, herbicides, and then they have a control over, all over all other industries, not only agriculture, because the basis of any economy is mining, extracting the minerals, transforming the minerals into something you can, engineering to something you can buy, and then of course agriculture, where in which you also extract essence, your food from the soil, so it can sustain you. So agriculture and mining plus slash industry are the basis of any economy, right? If you give that up, you don't have a country. I'm sorry, but some are learning it the hard way, and that's the basis of any agriculture, any society, of any country. But anyway, there the spell turned on the caster, because in the university systems, right, they're always looking for the thing. In a capitalist system, they're always looking for the thing that will make them millionaire the fastest possible, and they will close eyes to ethics, right? So lately they've been closing their eyes to debate. They are suppressing, in these past, I don't know, 40 years, maybe more, they've been shutting down discourse. They come up with these buzzwords to guilt, to weaponize empathy, to shut down discourse. They all start with an R and end in an ism, for instance, or with a C, or they always end in an ism, right? It's to weaponize empathy and to shut down any discourse. They might accuse you of things, not because you are those things. They accuse you of things so they can shut you down. It's not that you are, guilty of those things. So, what was the saying? They don't unalive you. They don't unalive you because you are those things. No, they call you those things so they can unalive you. You see, it's a circular thing, you know. And again, evil or stupidity, they see things backwards and upside down. And eventually, they will always accuse others of the things that they are guilty of. They mirror, what's it called in psychology? There's a name in psychology for that. When they mirror, themselves on others, casting, casting? No, it's not casting. Projection. I think it's projection. They project. Yeah. It's inevitable. They are unable to. They always project. So they've been shutting down discourse, guilt tripping everybody, using sophistry basically. Sophistry. It's impossible to talk to them. They're always in sophistry mode. They're always in sophistry mode, avoiding, and they say, and so on, and so on, and so on. You present them with facts, logic, and wisdom, and they're like, and so, like it doesn't mean anything. They're excellent. It's almost like talking to a puppet who doesn't have a soul. So they've been shutting down discourse and debate, and the unacceptable is being accepted in the university systems, the next generations, through sophistry, are coming up with a reality that is completely messed up. And why are they? It's being allowed. That's the question. When it was about the food industry, it was allowed because it made profit. When it was about pharmaceuticals, it was allowed because it made profit. Now, this course, free speech, is being allowed because it's good for profit. You know, the all of these what's it called, microaggressions, all of this touchy thing about you are what's the expression? I have it written here somewhere. Some of these expressions I can't remember. It's all based on sophistry and buzzwords. Purity. They're always signaling purity. They're always signaling virtue. They're always signaling, good intentions. But in practice, it's the total opposite. These people are specialists in shutting down conversations. They are sophists. And the only reason why it's being accepted in the university system is because it's making profit. It's making money. It's been fermenting in the university systems, and they were like, nobody's objecting us, and we are making a profit. So let's bleed this out into the working environment. Let's bleed, and government was okay with it. This shift in ideology, it is a cultural revolution, right? The same cultural revolution that happened in so many countries. Some of these countries, was born in their own universities and kind of brainwashed everybody, like Russia, China, etc. And then the brown shirts, the red shirts, all those guys, they were all universitarians. And then, or students, exchange students that came, to the French universities, for instance, and instead of learning engineering, mechanic, I don't know, medicine, to bring some interesting stuff back to their home countries. No, they perfected themselves in sophistry, in politics, in navel gazing that they call philosophy, and in ideology. And when they came back to their home countries, they decided to implement it. And that's when they also had a cultural revolution. Theories, that she completely remodeled the way they did things socially, economically. And it led to starvation. That's what happens to starvation, because everything is based on sophistry. It's based on bullshit, and it doesn't work. Right now, it's being accepted in the universities because people are making profit out of it. You don't even have to have qualifications nowadays to have a job. They just accuse you of some bullshit, and they virtue signal, guilt trip you for some historical thing, like retroactive thing. They are obsessed with the retroactive, like stuff that happened 100 years ago. Somehow it's your fault. Come on, doesn't make a lot of sense. So anyway, what used to create millionaires, right, now has backfired. Yeah, it is bringing about a cultural revolution similar to the Bolsheviks. And it's all, everybody's agreeing with it because it makes money. So the nature of their own system is what's destroying it. Yeah? They should completely shut their eyes to facts, logic, and wisdom because it makes money. So anyway, all right, I'm gonna shut up. Have a nice day.